Mr. Andy Hoffman, Herschel 36, Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. It's really great to welcome you back for a quick little interview on the Costa del Sol. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Actually, getting ready for my first vacation in about 3 years, if you could believe it.
Where are you off to?
Mexico.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I need to rest.
You know, man, there was a big conference in February in Acapulco, the Acapulco conference, I think it was called, by Jeff Berwick and the Dollar Vigilante, which some of my colleagues went to, and they said it was pretty awesome in Mexico, and they loved it down that little tip of Mexico. So I'm sure you're going to have a fantastic time.
Yeah, he's probably the last person living in the western part of Mexico. That used to be the boomtown. Now it's all in Cancun.
Yeah, well, that's right. Is that where you're heading to, Cancun?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool, man. Well, enjoy. But before you go, I'm glad we had an opportunity. I know you've got some stuff going on, but just before we crack into that, Andy, we have seen today a sell-off across the market. It's not a big one, but a pretty dramatic one. Is this a sign of what we can expect for the coming weeks?
Well, it depends what markets you're talking about. The U.S. stock market, which is no longer allowed to ever go down, or for that matter, it's no longer ever allowed to do anything but the same chart pattern. I call it the dead ringer every single day. That's up, of course. European stocks are down, Asia's down, because the economic data could not be worse. And you talk about in Europe, of course, there's fears about the Brexit coming on. Political issues with the migrancy crisis and the aftermath of the terrorist attacks we've seen. So on your side of the pond, it's getting a bit tenuous politically. Over here, it's a little different because our biggest political issue, of course, is whether Donald Trump will be kicked out of the Republican Party or whether Hillary Clinton will cruise into office. But either way, Americans seem to be oblivious of the bigger issues around the world because our market manipulators are better than the others.
That's absolutely right. I'm looking at the charts right now. The US 30 Wall Street is up 0.49%. It did have a dip earlier today, but it is up at the latter stages of my day anyway. The German DAX is down 1.52%. The UK 100 0.28. The CAC 1.4, and the US 500 is up again for 0.5% according to Saxo Trading Bank, which is quite incredible, really. With all this uncertainty, with all the wars going on, with prices such as hyperinflation in places like Venezuela, I mean, how on earth can the US Wall Street keep up that high when I think the job reports earlier today were pretty appalling, were they not?
Right, and don't forget Brazil, where they may not actually have the Olympics, which would be the perfect symbolism for what's going on in the world. But what's going on here? Look, the U.S. economy is falling as fast or faster than anywhere else. It's just a matter of we put out these jobs reports, which even when you put them out, you could see that they're a joke. That you don't. The lies are right there for you to see, that they don't jive with anything that's going on in the real economy. They just put out their 200,000 jobs every month, despite the fact that even what they tell you that are jobs, the ones that are not seasonally adjusted fabrications, are part-time jobs. I mean, they're telling us that retail jobs are surging, except retail sales right now are at their worst level since the bottom of the 2008 crisis. So it makes no sense at all. You throw in all the internet, people shopping online now, and they're closing the big box storefronts right now and laying people off. And you go, how could they possibly say that there's more retail jobs? And it's because they're lying. All the other numbers are horrible. The construction data today came out. It was unexpectedly negative, as have retail sales and durable goods orders and factory orders. Even the Fed itself is expecting almost no growth this quarter, and that's fabricated, book-cooked growth is still saying zero. And that's why Janet Yellen came out just 2 days ago with what I believe is the most dovish statement she's ever made since becoming the Federal Reserve Chairman. So again, things couldn't be worse economically. And on top of that, of course, now the commodity bear market that had temporarily been put off by the largest short squeeze ever, which is basically the manipulators came in and caused all the shorts to cover. It's now going right back down again, as it should. So that'll be back in the forefront pretty soon. And when you have record high stock prices over here, based on the worst earnings quality and the highest earnings valuations since the top of the internet bubble, you know it's going to be coming soon. And then, of course, the bigger issue here, probably the bigger issue of what's going on today, is their attempts to knock gold and silver down, because they just finished their best quarter to start a year in 42 years. Also, the highest global demand for a quarter in 42 years. And we now have confirmed falling supply. The inventories above ground have fallen to as low as they've probably been in any of our lifetimes. And of course, the money printing between the ECB's announcements, the Bank of Japan's, now China's announced today that they're officially monetizing stocks. And you could see why people are buying gold and silver, and why the cartel is so desperate to slow down the physical buying that is inevitably going to destroy them.
That's right. Gold and silver are relatively on sale, especially silver right now. And if you're listening to this and you're contemplating, should I or shouldn't I, you should. There's no two ways about it. It's been rumoured that some serious hedge funds have gone in and ordered physical gold and silver, and that's unheard of, I do believe. I'm not an expert, Andy is, but he'll get further into that. But how do they do it, Andy? How do they get the Wall Street, the US 30 Wall Street to be at 17,000, almost 18,000 points? How on earth do they manage to achieve that goal?
Well, at any paper market, you can put it wherever you want. I mean, the Dow, they can make it 170,000 if they want to. I mean, just print money and keep buying it. And they've been doing the same chart pattern every single day for years, which works nicely. I mean, this is the lowest liquidity we've had in the stock markets for many years, probably decades, because there's no one left in the markets except for them. But when you talk about the physical gold and silver markets, that's different, because while they can do this, I mean, you saw at one point this morning, they knocked silver down like 60 cents in a matter of 10 minutes. Why? Because the jobs report was exactly as they were expecting it to be? No, this is what they do during jobs reports. They have massive short positions that they've taken you can see. And every time they do that, they try to get the price down so they can cover their shorts. And this is, they have what's called key attack events and key attack times. The jobs report has been the number one. That and the Fed speaking for years and years. And so they just did it again today. And all it's going to do is catalyze more demand at these levels. We're already on a pace for a record level of physical silver demand this year, and that was on top of last year's record level of physical silver demand. And now it's forecast that silver production will fall about 10% this year and keep falling thereafter. The same with gold, it's going to fall. And again, you look at all the above ground inventories, all the institutional money that's flown in. You're talking about into the ETFs, the hedge funds, those things. We were talking about they bought massive amounts of gold and silver in the first quarter. The prices should be much higher. The problem is these ETFs claim to have bought that gold and silver, but it's not possible for them to have bought that much. They probably have contracts that say, we will get gold and silver delivered sometime in the future, but we didn't act, but they just claim that they have it. It's kind of like central banks. Believe it or not, the IMF governs the rules for central bank gold accounting. How they do it, I don't know. And it's in their rules that says you can sell, lease, swap, or otherwise encumber your central bank-owned gold and still keep it on your balance sheet. And many central banks have admitted that. So it's like the United States. They keep saying they have 8,134 tons for the last 30 years, but there's tons of admissions of them selling, and they're going to sell and swapping and leasing. So of course they don't have what they say, and that's how the game has gone on. They've had to liquidate the reserves that people think that they once had, and a lot of people still think they have. But the problem is it gets harder and harder to satiate the growing demand around the world when you have very little inventory left.
That's right. It's all about perception, isn't it, at the moment? And it's quite incredible because the perception of politics is false, and it leaves me in a position where, just being an ordinary geezer who has a family and a life, I'm a little bit bewildered about what to do, where to go, and to be honest with you, who to trust in this fiat paper currency environment. if we were living in the late 20s of the last century, and we had this kind of way of communicating with each other, and we were running up to 29 before the Great Crash, the Great Depression, I swear to you, the same people pulling the strings today are the same people pulling the strings back then, and they're doing exactly the same things. They expand the market and then they contract the market via money supply, do they not? And then they're buying up all the assets. Any truth in that, Andy?
Well, does it surprise you that the Federal Reserve came into being in 1913, and it was only a few years later that the Roaring '20s bull market in stocks commenced? And of course, due to all the credit creation during it, caused this great crash, which eventually caused a depression. And you say, who can I trust with the fiat currency? Well, living over in Europe, you got to trust Mario Draghi, or as I call him, Goldman Mario, because he used to work at Goldman Sachs. He said in July 2012, he will do whatever it takes to save the euro. And whatever it takes to save the currency apparently is to absolutely destroy it with hyperinflation. They have negative interest rates. Now they're doing a bigger amount of QE than the Fed. In fact, if they get all the way through September 7, 2017, as they promised, they'll have printed $2.5 billion or 2.2 trillion euros in these 18 months. And what have they done? You have not got the inflation that you want, although I'm sure your cost of living is a lot higher than they say. Your economy is as bad as it gets, and your political factions are splintering across the entire continent. That's how he saved the currency.
That's right, and sovereignty is dead, my friend. Sovereignty is dead. It's a really funny situation in Europe right now. It seems as if all is well, but you and I both know there are some serious cracks in the framework of the European Union, and I don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be that pleasant, the run up to October. And they, generally speaking, Andy, they if the market comes down, it comes down in October. It certainly did in 2008, didn't it?
Yep, and of course the markets, whatever's left of the markets, don't always do what they're supposed to do. You know that sometimes they say sell in May and go away, but last summer, big difference. you have plenty of times where things are supposed to happen where they don't happen. You're supposed to have a Santa Claus rally last year, instead stocks plummeted. So there's no reason to believe that anything will wait until October, or for that matter, that October will be a turning point. The turning point could be tomorrow, or it could be October. But the point is, as I look around the world, markets are again rolling over, commodities are rolling over, a lot of the currencies are falling again, and of course, the economic data is as bad. I mean, look at last night's data from Japan alone. Look at China had its credit outlook downgraded to negative yesterday. Even here, I mean, aside from pretending we have jobs, everything here is falling apart. So I would anticipate that it can't be long before this eye of the storm created by said greatest short squeeze ever is going to go right back in the other direction.
That's absolutely right. Who knows when something is going to happen? It's very difficult to predict anything nowadays. But I tell you, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I go back to my earlier statement. As a Joe Public, who can I trust right now? What can I trust? And the truth is, I can trust gold and silver. There's no two ways about it. Historically, they have a proven track record of maintaining a level of wealth and sustainability across centuries. If I put a bar of gold in the ground and alongside it the equivalent amount of dollars, my dollars would now be worth absolutely zip, whilst my gold would be worth quite a substantial amount of wealth. Now that's true, isn't it?
Well, of course, you can trust the physical markets. If you put your trust in the paper markets, you wake up and this morning you see silver down 60 cents, 4% and that's money. That's assets of yours that you've lost. I mean, you may hold on and hope it goes back up. Maybe the ETF will fall apart before you ever get the value back, even if silver does go up. But if you own the real stuff, and just hide it away, put it away somewhere. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's certainly not going to lose value against paper currencies over time. I mean, even in Europe, we people in America who have precious metals get all stressed out by the prices being down. The price of gold is about 35% from its all-time high. But in Europe, the euro price is only about 22% from its all-time high, and pound is about 25%. I mean, this is not far. People have significant gains even in the last few years in gold and silver over in Europe, and I suspect that finally the center of the cartel here in America is going to follow it soon. But on average, around the world, I'd say the average currency, gold, is only down about maybe 10 or 15% from its all-time high.
Well, that's really reassuring. And what I like about you and others who are doing work like your good self is the integrity in what you're doing. Now, clearly, you are selling gold and silver. You're selling a service all across the board. But you're also providing quality information to people like me, right? Since we've been talking, I've been educated. And that allows me to educate others. So let me thank you for that service. But you are doing more than that, aren't you? You are actually going on the road and you're talking to people in specific cities at specific times about these specific issues. Right.
And of course, my firm, Miles Franklin, is one of the oldest, most trusted bullion dealers in America. We've been around 27 years. We have never had a registered complaint against us in all that time. And like you said, part of our service offering is, for instance, my doing these podcasts and articles to educate, which is as much a labor of love as it is a labor of business. But what you're talking about is myself and the company's president and co-founder, Andy Schectman, who knows as much about the retail bullion business as I know about the precious metal markets. We've been going around the country and doing these Q&A rap sessions. They've been entirely free. We've done 3 already. We have 3 more scheduled. And basically, people just sit there and ask us questions all night about the precious metal markets, the bullion market, the economies, geopolitics, etc. And we have a good time, and it's a lot of like-minded people. Now, the next one we're doing, which is Thursday, April 21st, it's in Florida, actually. It's going to be also for free, simulcast on a live interactive webinar, which will go out around the world. It's entirely free. I know in Europe it'll be a little late because it's 6:30 p.m., but it is live, and you can type in questions, and we will answer all those questions until we lose our voices. So I think you have the information on your screen for people to just click and register for free, or you can email me at ahoffman@milesfranklin.com.
Bingo, absolute gold dust. Yeah, so people, if you're listening to this, can you see the link at the top of the screen here? Click on this link and that will send you to Andy's page for this particular event, and you can register there free online. I suggest that if you invest your time, you're not going to do any harm apart from learning more about what's really going on in the world. Turn off CNN and check into what Andy and his guys are talking about. It's absolute gold dust. So Andy, that's brilliant. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's all. I appreciate it. I don't do too many podcasts overseas, so I always like to get the European flavor, and I really appreciate all that you're doing for your listeners.
Hey, I'm Herschel, Herschel36. Thanks for listening to Truth is Stranger Than Fiction on the Beat 106 FM. Did you like it? If so, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, people! Brought to you by justfinishingrecords.co.uk. Herschel36, where truth is stranger than fiction.